Okay, welcome to the Budget Committee meeting. Continued from, not continued, but postponed from last week to the 24th. Call the meeting to order at about 7:08. Roll call, we'll start with you, Guy.
Guy Karen?
Richard Fletcher.
Lisa Jukes.
Brian Lewis.
Joe Spur.
Diane McCarthy, School Board Rep.
Ivan Bellavo.
Collis Adams, Selectman's Rep.
John Burt.
Ruth Gage.
Peter Georgiantis. Excused were Lee Sperry and Brian that I know of, Brian Fournier. I think the next thing to do is, well, you guys do not have the minutes, you said, right? Did you get it from last month's meeting? I mean, the June meeting?
I don't recall.
All right,
Seeing
so
them.
we'll suspend that to the next meeting, okay? Public comment, not seeing any. Old business, okay, we have some, I'd like to move up the new business to the old business. As you know, Phil Kendall turned in his resignation. So I was elected as vice chair, not chair. So I sit here tonight as the vice chair, and we need to elect a chair, just to push things on the way it should be. So I would say right now, we would probably open the floor up to nominations. Guy?
I nominate Peter Georgianis as chairman.
I'll second that.
Any other nominations?
A voteless election.
No, you have to cast one vote. Okay, so I'll be the chair. So now we need to elect my replacement. Any nominations? Anybody want to volunteer? Have John Burt said he would volunteer?
No.
Oh.
I want to make a nomination.
Oh, you want to make a nomination? Go
I
ahead.
don't want to volunteer.
Okay.
I would nominate Guy Karen if he would accept.
I would like to, and I appreciate what you're doing, John, but frankly, I don't have the time to dedicate to it, so I would not be able to accept. If push comes to shove, okay, but
All right, I would draw my nomination.
All right. Any other nominations? Come on, somebody step up. Go ahead.
Ivan Bellavo.
Ivan.
No, I will not be on again.
Ivan's had enough also. How about Lisa?
4 years.
I am really good. Do we really need a vice? Because we didn't have
Well,
one.
look what happened.
But you're staying, right?
Yeah, I don't plan on going anywhere, but
Right,
there
so
may be meetings
I'm
when
good.
I'm not here, and somebody should be in charge of running that meeting.
Richard Fletcher's here most meetings.
Do it, Lisa.
He can't because he's not an elected member. It has to be elected. He's appointed.
I'll accept the nomination then. if
Okay,
there's
Guy
nobody else.
Karen's accepted the nomination. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, Guy will be the vice chair. Now we'll go to any other things on the old, anything on the old business anybody needs to bring up? There was a question, I'll bring it up, about the meetings with the Board of Selectmen. I reviewed that meeting we had in June, and there was no decision to meet with the Board of Selectmen. In fact, the board with Dave Pierce recommended that the person who was representing that department come and participate in the budget meeting with presentations to the budget, to the selectmen. So I understand, and then there was a question on whether I was right or wrong, so I asked the town administrator to review the minutes, to review the meeting. And she came up with the same conclusion that I did. So there was a question on whether the people, if somebody didn't attend those meetings, whether there'd be an unexcused absence. So whereas the Budget Committee never said that we were going to have a joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen as during the budget presentations, I don't feel it would be right to penalize somebody for not attending those minutes. Any conversations on that, or? I guess not. So those meetings won't count as official budget meetings. Is more or less what I'm saying. Is that agreeable with everybody?
Sure.
Okay?
If I can add, Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Guy.
You know, when we did this a couple of years ago, it was handy to be able to go into the preliminary budget presentations that were being made by the department heads to the Board of Selectmen and ask a few questions. But you know what? Ultimately, we ended up calling all the department heads in anyways. To
And that's-
review the adjusted budgets, the final budgets that were presented to us. So 6 of one, half dozen of the other. You know, I watched the first one, I attended the second. Frankly, I forgot about last night's. But whatever was presented last night, we're gonna get the adjusted versions anyways. And the department heads, even if we didn't ask them to come in, they're gonna come in anyways on those nights we review their budgets. So,
Okay. So the procedure will go ahead with, and I can relay, or call us, you can relay to the board that we'll call them in after you've given us our budget. We've had a chance to take a peek, maybe, and look at, highlight some things that we may want to question. And then we'll schedule with the Board of Selectmen or the Town Administrator when departments we'd like to speak to when. Is that agreeable to everybody?
I'll convey that message for you.
Thank you.
And Peter, I guess the only comment I would
Go ahead,
make
Lisa.
too is it was really helpful last year. When we were actually going through our deliberations, we had this mechanism where we could stop deliberations and ask a question, which I found really useful as well, because even though we got the information from the department head, sometimes a few weeks had gone by and, you know, we would kind of forget or someone wouldn't get the information right. So we would pause deliberations, ask that if the department head was here to come up and just kind of clarify what we were discussing.
Right.
And I thought that was a really helpful tool for us to make our decisions.
Yeah, I don't have any problem. I think that's a great idea. So, Diane, that's more or less the same way we would approach with the school too, with the superintendent and that department head or the principal of that, yeah. All right. Anything else? Anything else on the old business that you know of? Okay, we'll move on to town reports. We know David's not here. We got Collis here tonight. Collis, anything you want to update us on?
Nothing specific. We've been meeting with the department heads. They've been coming in, presenting their proposed budgets. Last night, we heard DPW and Sewer Commission. The week before, we heard Fire and Police. The week before that was Parks and Recs and the Library, I believe. So, you know, they're bringing in their budgets. I guess to nobody's surprise, DPW budget is gonna be something we're gonna have to wrestle with. You know, the whole issue of deferred maintenance on roadways and, you know, the whole thing. What are we gonna do about that? There was some discussion last night about Goffstown being in a position to bond. You know, we've got a very good bond rating. We're in great position to bond if need be, so there's some preliminary discussions about that. But, you know, that'll all evolve as we move forward.
Now, Bedford did that, am I right?
I
I believe Bedford bonded a road program.
I don't know if they did or not.
Yeah,
That
they
may-
did.
Mentioned that last night, yeah.
Yeah.
I forget who brought that up.
And I think if they, I think it'd be good to maybe reach out to them and get some feedback from their administration and how that worked for them or how it is working for them.
Yeah, and then there's still about $1 million in a fund balance that we have available to us to use for some townwide project of importance.
I know everybody's already been looking at a piece of that pie.
Oh, yeah. So again, we were just in the beginning stages,
Okay.
just hearing the proposals from the department heads.
Brian's not gonna be here, Lee. I'm glad you were able to join us. Can you go ahead and update us on anything at the police department, or is it just kinda,
It was pretty much everything that was at the Board of Selectmen meeting, the same, whether anybody was there, but, they were looking to, hindsight recorders, some of, you know, looking to do that. The, what's it, the new, radio frequency that can't think of it right now, name it, but it was all the stuff at the meeting.
okay. There's nothing in the current budget that's affecting the current budget?
Not we're doing it, just all the new stuff.
Okay, Guy, have you done anything with the fire department?
I attended last week's budget presentation. I did not get a chance to hook up with Rich prior to that. He made his presentation. If anybody needs it, I have it electronically.
He emailed it to me.
You did? Okay. Just be advised that the biggest portion, or the thing that struck me the most on the fire department, was CIP. there's a almost $4 million proposal for station improvements. And I think everybody needs to be aware that the word improvements, to me, part of these improvements includes construction of a brand-new building over, next door to us, over on N18. So this is more than just exhaust fans and lighting and heating and other elements. The part of that CIP includes building a brand-new couple of bays and attaching them to what is currently Station 18. So the word improvements, to me, doesn't fit. This is new construction that's being proposed.
Okay, I served on, just to let you know, update,
Yeah.
I served on that committee. And over at on the Terrell Hill Road Station, it was originally planned to be torn down and completely rebuilt, ground up, and relocated. It was, I made the recommendation to leave the old station there and change that into crew quarters and offices and add on their bays, saving disposal of the old building, I mean demolition of the old building and reconstruction of everything. So
Yep.
that was a little bit of savings we saved there.
There would be savings presuming we tore down the other building. If we left the
Oh,
status
no,
quo.
you're right. No, but I'm just saying, if, to go ahead with their proposal, that proposal's gonna come out whether you, at this
Okay.
time, we agree with it or not. That proposal's gonna come out, so I think, and Guy is right, that once you hear the presentation on that, you'll see some of the reasoning for redoing some, and I'm sure you already heard it. If you haven't, I have the whole presentation too. I can email that to you. I was kind of waiting for the CIP presentation to us before. I'm not sure if the Board of Selectmen are going ahead with this plan, so it doesn't really,
Right.
come into,
We haven't discussed it all, haven't made any decisions, but
yeah.
as far as Station 17 goes, the existing building, there's a lot of emotional and sentimental
Exactly.
value attached to that, because it's built with volunteer labor and donated materials, so, you know, it's a bit of a sensitive issue.
Yeah, my only point was that when you hear about the proposed improvements to the fire station and the renovations, et cetera, there's a missing word there, new construction.
Oh, yeah.
Every station, all three stations
Oh, yeah.
would have new construction.
No question.
According to by the plan.
Significant new
Yeah.
construction.
Like I said, here we go back again, just give me one second. Here we go back again, worrying about something that we may not even see.
Right.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. Currently, they're doing new sprinklers and HVAC, is that correct? Or
They just did something to
is that gonna be
18
added on to what they were doing?
sprinkler system, right?
In
And I know that
exhaust.
a number of the stations, part of these improvements have to do with
And
venting exhaust, and
They have new ventilation systems, yeah,
they already have them?
up here.
Oh, they've already put them
And
in,
then
okay,
I
just
think on the
installed it.
Penavin station, I don't know about the East Goffstown station, yeah.
okay.
Question would be, if they do the new construction, is that gonna be added on to, or is that gonna be?
It's gonna move to the right of Station 18 with a connector. They
Okay.
wanna put in, I think it's 2 bays?
Yep.
Right?
That's
With
what it said, yeah.
taller openings for future trucks that are coming in or something, but we're talking about an entirely brand-new building being put up next to 18 with the connection.
Now, it's not just future trucks. The truck we got a grant for, about $150,000 of grant money was used to lower that truck in order to get it into our
Right.
onto our base.
And my thought is, $150,000 to lower a truck, divided into 3.4 million, buys a lot of trucks for decades. So just keep that in mind.
I understand what you're
We have to
saying,
build the
but-
truck a little lower. to-
Ivan?
All, it was mentioned that the sentimental value of Station 17, because it was in-kind and volunteer. That's true for all 3 stations. All 3 stations were built with at no cost to the town, with in-kind donations and volunteer labor.
Really?
Yeah,
Yep,
I don't think
but I
so.
was informed.
that's what I was informed.
Huh?
Penaville Station, okay, the Penaville Station, the original station was built that way. They gave it belonged to the association, they gave it to the town of Goffstown, who then built a new station. This one over here was torn down and built by taxpayer money. The East Goffstown station was built with volunteers and donations. The land was given, the whole works.
So you're semi-right, Ivan. The
Yeah.
the properties were given, but the stations were built with taxpayers' money on the other two. Anything else? We'll move on. Joel or Lisa, whichever.
Well, Public Works, I mean, we heard, we just heard that the big part of the Public Works proposed budget is capital improvements, over $5 million. I mean, I don't need to go over that again, do I?
No, I
Alice just
think,
mentioned it.
I think what we're doing right now with the town reports is
Yeah.
what the current budget, anything,
Okay, I'll
anything
mention-
we're seeing
well-
that's gonna affect our decisions in the future year.
Okay, I'll just mention it because people were interested, the new radios that we had talked about at earlier meetings. They haven't bought those yet, they have the purchase orders written and ready to go. As soon as they get the grant money from the state, which is dependent on some federal grant money coming through, they'll do that. They've been told by the Homeland Security people at the state level that it's just a question of when they get the money, not whether they're gonna get it. So hopefully that'll all be done by January 1st, when the mountain system is shut off and the old frequencies will no longer work for the DPW trucks. So Carl Quirm is just kind of keeping his fingers crossed that that'll all come together before the end of the year. Yeah, so anyway, that's,
Okay. Lisa, you got anything to add?
No, I didn't go to the meeting.
Okay. Brian or John? Brian?
I attended the Parks and Rec meeting last week. Pretty much, the budget's pretty well set. The big item is gonna be out of CIP to resurface the track, but that will be coming out of their revolving fund. There was also discussion about resurfacing the basketball courts as well. They thought that would be a nice addition to the town, and it's a minimal cost, from what I understood. It was around 8,000 or something like that for the basketball courts.
Additional?
On the track. They were still discussing that. So those are the two items I think they're gonna be asking for additionally.
Okay. John, you got anything to add?
No, I
Okay.
haven't talked with Mr. Hunt at Mountain View Middle School yet.
Okay. Ruth or Lee, whichever. Go ahead, Ruth.
I wasn't able to see Sue because she's away, but I did talk with Derek, and he got some figures together for me, and everything's going along in the administration part very well. It's pretty much what you would expect would be expended by the end of August. One thing that he did mention, the Human Services Direct Assistance line is now at, and that, I think that's gone into September now, is now at 74, no, that is as of the end of August, I'm sorry, 74.11% with 4 more months to go. And that's nothing they have any control over, unfortunately. So, but that's could be a problem in the future. The invoice for the annual report, for the 2011 report, was paid in July, and that was $5,600 and change. One thing that we mentioned, I believe it was in our last meeting, was the early September, a purchase order was filed for the replacement of the town hall HVACs, the 4 units. They budgeted $50,000 for the replacement, and the actual came in at $49,690. So that called it pretty good.
Getting close.
And the work will be completed this month. It will show up in the September report. The GS flyover contract is being finalized, and a purchase order for the work is anticipated before 9:30. And the budgeted amount was $110,000 in that line. And that's about it for.
And that project is being done next spring, actually, isn't it?
I believe so.
Right.
Yeah, before leaf out.
Before, yeah.
I have a quick question.
Go ahead, Guy.
Yeah, if I can, it's probably better directed to you, Selectman Adams. You mentioned
Who?
50,
You can call me
Selectman
Collis.
Adams.
You can call me Collis.
Yeah, I know. You mentioned 5,600 for the town reports.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what percentage of them do we have printed in hard copy? And I know they're available on DVD, and do we end up with like a bunch left over, or what's our better investment, do you know?
Don't know the answer. I'll
I'm
get it for
just
you, though.
curious.
Yeah, I'll get it.
I
I'll
mean,
get
do we
that
have a
for you.
closet full of them, or are people knocking on the door to get them, or?
Go ahead, John.
Ruth, I was just curious, you said we're at 74%.
On that one line.
Yes, to the end of August. I don't have a calculator in front of me. What should we be at? You know, if we were on track?
I don't think there's ever been a constant, because it's something that you have no control over. You never know how many people are going to need assistance.
Well, you're about 3/4 of the way through the budget at
Right.
74%, which should take you through the end of September. So you're about 30 days behind.
Yeah.
Okay, so there is there
Yeah.
could be a possible shortfall.
And actually,
Yes.
it could be more than that,
Yes,
because as you
that's-
come into the,
The
as you
heating.
come into the heating system, sometimes that line gets taxed. a
And
little
that's
bit.
why it wanted to be brought to the Budget Committee's attention, is that there may be a shortfall.
All right, thank you.
Go ahead.
Just to revisit what I was saying, if you're gonna be looking into that, I would think that most of the people who have facility to grab the town report by CD could just as easily download it. So I'm just curious as to how many hard copies do we really have to print anymore compared to the old days where we had to,
Yeah.
you know, provide the entire town with them. Just curious because the downloads, so, anyways,
I suspect there's a lot of them left over, at least from what I see it, you know, when I go
Really?
through the polls. There's piles of.
yeah, I mean, it's not a big deal, I'm just
Yeah.
curious to see what we're
Yeah, I'll look
spending
into that for you.
versus.
Sure.
And what's the difference in price between 5,000 and 4,500, or,
Yeah.
I mean, it's, who knows?
And you're always gonna have those people that are gonna want that hard copy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I grab one because it's there, but I could download it.
Ivan, you got anything on the library? And Elizabeth usually does that, but
Yeah, she would have some numbers and reporting on the increases in the number of books going out and number of DVDs going out and all that. And all I had was just some personal impressions that, and you know, there's a terrific staff there, and there's a terrific, wonderful old 3-story building. And library and all of that don't seem to come together for me. It just doesn't seem efficient. There's a lot of staff to go on 3 floors. Each floor has to be covered. They've got computers in each floor. I don't think it's, my personal opinion, I don't know what Elizabeth thinks, that it's not really efficient. And the growth, when I was there, I saw the latest, greatest John Grisham books, Mary Louise, whatever her name is, Higgins, all the romance novels. Anyone in town can ask and request those, and they will be delivered to their door for free. And the town meetings, the DVDs of the town meetings, plus a player will be delivered, which is which I thought was a pretty good service. And the big selling book that the week I was there was Abraham Lincoln, a Vampire Slayer, with Lincoln holding a bloody head and an axe, and that's the #1. And I just wonder if the library ought to be competing with Barnes and Noble, personally. And they do some great stuff there too.
You say,
it's a give and take.
I don't know what you mean. I mean, what are you getting at? You don't like the books that they have, or?
I wonder if the town should be in the business of competing with Barnes and Noble, because we will deliver to somebody's door the newest romance novel. And is that a function of a professional library?
Well, I didn't know that Barnes and Noble delivered anything to your door for free.
Well, that would be a point too, yeah.
that's his
No,
point.
I mean, Barnes and Noble is a bookstore. It's not a library. There's a big difference.
Well, why are we competing? Why would you go to Barnes and Noble?
I don't, that's my question to you, Ivan. I don't understand where the competition is.
Because,
Barnes and Noble sells
well,
books.
okay.
And the library lends books.
Yeah.
It's two different things.
Why would anyone go to Barnes and Noble when you can get it delivered to your door free? That's the point.
Absolutely. That's,
We're paying for it.
But I don't think you
that's
can,
why
wait,
we
I just
have
have
it.
to
What,
interrupt.
what was, one at a time, please.
Okay, point of information. I mean, I think to get it delivered to your door, I don't know if you have to be elderly, but I think
Yeah,
it's a
you
service
ask.
that
Yeah.
Right, but that's a service they provide to people who, I think, and I probably shouldn't even be
Homebound.
saying this, but, yeah, homebound people or, sick, or, like, if I called, they'd be like, come down and get it, you're able to do that. So, I mean, I don't think it's kind of
But it's
unfair
e-
to make that classification, I guess is all I would say.
It's easy to understand why the library is growing.
Point I'll take. Guys, did you have something to say?
You mentioned that whatever this romance novel was the number one checked out book of the week or whatever it was. How many? Are we talking about 2 or 2,000 or what?
6 or 8.
And we're delivering them?
Well,
We buy about 6, there's a whole long conversation about how many bundles we can get and how many we can deliver. They'd like to be able to do more. It's a whole,
Well, when, I think, Ivan, when that department comes before us, you
Yeah,
can,
that's-
you can ask them the question of, what cost of this service, and is it really necessary? And that's for us to take a look at. But I don't know if criticizing what their people are reading is where we want to go, but
no,
maybe.
in terms of what we spend, what the town spends for something like that.
Do you know what that number is?
I don't,
Then
pull it
we're
out of my
gonna
budget
find.
book.
Yeah, but we can find that out when they come. You can ask that question.
I told you those were observations.
Yep, that's fine. Ivan, CIP?
I took the liberty of photocopying a couple things here, just to show, we talked about the department heads coming to the Board of Selectmen, and probably coming to the Budget Committee. Well, they also go to the CIP Committee. So 6 or 8 people meet for 6 or 8 weeks. And this is what the CIP book looks like. This is a CIP book, and the thing I pass around is an org chart. The CIP has a report, I passed out the wrong one,
I was
sorry.
gonna say, what the heck is this?
All right, put that aside for a moment, I grabbed the wrong one, this is the other one. I wanted to show you first.
I wasn't making heads or tails of that one.
Sorry,
I was lost for a minute.
2001, I'm saying, wait a minute here.
that's the next one.
Deja vu for me.
The first one, the second one is an org chart of the CIP committee, which reports to the planning committee. The chairman of the CIP is also the chairman of the planning committee.
The planning board, you said?
Planning board, yeah. Jim Redmond is the chairman of both.
That's, did he appoint himself, or did you elect it, or how did that work?
No, he's elected by the board of the
Okay,
CIP.
so the board, well,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, that's a nominated position.
yeah, it's not somebody that, he didn't appoint himself to the,
No, he's been there about 8 years on both. And he's also the DPW department head in Ware. So the CIP, and I say this because I didn't have a clue, there was really no representation a few years ago from the Budget Committee on the CIP committee. And I went there not having a clue what it was about. And quote unquote, the CIP is not a budgeting function. The CIP does not look at any numbers and make a decision. They move numbers around. And that is a lead-in into what we were talking about, or what was brought out, that there's a $5 million CIP request from the DPW, quote unquote, because things have been moved out and now the stuff has hit the fan. So the CIP does not do any budgeting, but it looks at 6 or 8 people for 6 or 8 weeks, debate this stuff and move it around. So this is actually, the CIP is a 5-year projection. And I didn't so it ends up with an 8-page matrix, which I didn't copy, because what I sent around cost $25. Can I turn in my slip for that?
why didn't you take it upstairs and have them do it?
You could send it electronically for free.
It's not It's available electronically on the town website, yes. The org chart is not. The other thing which I, by mistake, passed out first, so the other function of the CIP committee is to allocate the impact fees. The Board of Selectmen talked last night about contractors and builders paying impact fees. Well, the town also charges new houses an impact fee. The average is about $8,800. So if you're gonna build a house in Goffstown, you will pay an impact fee of about $8,800. And the CIP allocates that, and that chart shows the allocation to the school board for since the law was passed, the allocations of the impact fees. So this is just another function of, and I don't want to go into any great depth, you can see the schools have received a lot of money, sometimes $400,000 a year. And those monies have been drying up. Last year, I think there were 8 houses built in Goffstown, so anyway, part of the, I'm repeating myself, some of the revenues that go to the town are from these impact fees, which the CIP allocates. So that's another function of the CIP.
Mr. Chairman?
John, go ahead.
Thank you. Ivan, I just have a question on, you said approximately 8 houses were built last year. You know, I'm sure a lot of it is the economy, but is any of it these huge numbers that you're giving us for impact fees? I mean, do other towns around us have the same?
Yes, the answer is yes.
They do, okay.
Yeah. Now, these impact fees are strictly, this is not the impact fees from large developments and so forth, from the large, the projects that builders pay. This is strictly, funds available in December 2007, there was 473,000. Last year, 2011, line 21, there was 39,000. So we've seen about a 90% reduction in revenues. I didn't know that. I didn't know if you knew that, so I thought I would share that. So there's an 8-page matrix going out from 2013 to 2018. Nothing's removed. Anything that goes on the warrant article is not discussed. All. It goes to the voters, quote unquote. So if you know the school is going to put a warrant article in for this, or anyone else is going to do it, then it's just automatically, it's not even discussed. If there's a piece of if Carl wants a grader, they'll talk about it, and do they really need a grader? Well, can they get by another year? So there's, and I think we need to know, now, hopefully, the department heads, when they put the budget to us, have made that adjustment. Because the CIP will say, well, we'll move it out. So there's 8 pages of items that have been moved or not moved and shuffled. Do we look at this? Does the Board of Selectmen look at this?
Yes.
Okay, good.
I'm not sure, I haven't, when they come the department heads come before the CIP.
Yes.
They prioritize A, B, C, 1,
Yes.
2, 3, or however they do
Yes,
it.
1, 2, 3, yes.
Okay.
So they put together maybe a 8 or 10-page presentation that prioritizes, gives all the verbal justification for so forth and so on. I just grabbed one. Yeah, they prioritize it. 1, 1, 2, 3. There's a whole process here. I've been on the CIP for a couple of years. I was a newbie the first year, just wondering, what in the world is going on.
I was curious, you said that the budget committee wasn't representative there, it wasn't represented on this.
Prior to me, there was no one going, no.
Is that something that Dan decided to eliminate, or?
No, that happened
Nobody
one year.
volunteered.
That happened 1 year. Prior to that, there was somebody always there.
I served on it for, I know at least 2, maybe 3 years from the budget committee. I know I was on it.
The year before then, there was no one on it.
Okay.
And I think that came about because nobody volunteered to do it.
Yeah, it's a volunteer.
Dan had some justification for it, I can't remember what it was.
Yeah,
But it's a
You're right.
it's a huge commitment of time if you're going to take and go there and take a look at the piece of equipment that they want to replace. It's a huge commitment. And I personally did it last year. I went and looked.
I would say I served on it for, I knew at least 2, maybe 3 years.
I volunteered that year, but he wouldn't let me be on it.
Was that Dan?
Yeah.
Scared of you.
Huh?
You're
Scared.
scared of it. Anything else
anyway,
on CIP, Ivan, that you wanted to bring up?
There seems to be
I'm sorry, Dick, go ahead.
not a problem, but there seems to be something in my mind that tells me that from the beginning and the inception of the CIP, and I was involved with it 20 years ago, that it hasn't done what they set out to do with it and spread the things out and keep it level funded and see that everybody got things that they were going to need, It's just grown to a point now where, how do you catch up with it?
Well,
And I say to myself sometimes, is some of it a wish list now?
Well, that's what Carl was sharing last night, that the wish list is caught up to us now, and we're looking at a town with school and town together. I don't know whether it's 20 million or 30 million
In CIP.
in CIP, in addition to the budget.
So I guess in my mind, I say, what's it doing for us now? Do we go back to the old way of, we put a special article in if you need a fire truck or if you need a grader? And you know what the problem with that was? The same thing, it's who's gonna outdo the other one? That seems to be, to me, a problem, and you'll never change it. I mean, if the highway department wants a grader, the fire department wants a fire truck, and the library wants to put an addition on, who's gonna win out? And it becomes a popularity contest to a degree. And it happened when they were doing special articles in the warrant, It became that kind of a,
I would agree, except
Operation.
things have changed though now, Dick.
Oh, yeah.
With passage of 4013, or Senate Bill 2, whichever you want to call it, 4013 is what it's really called. That kind of killed that town meeting. Whoever got up and gave the best presentation was who got the best bite of the pie.
but even that presentation wasn't really doing something for each department.
No.
It was, some of them fell behind, and they fell farther behind, and then they had to play a catch-up game, and that was hard to do too. So, is there some other way to,
And my observation after 4 years, given that we're an SB2 community, the law states that a department can spend anything it wants on any line as long as it does not exceed the bottom line.
right,
So the CIP, the selectmen, the budget committee, the deliberative session could say, this, you can't buy this. But if they want to, they can.
there's another thing that comes into the equation there, and that's separate articles, which didn't used to be. It was special articles, and then all of a sudden, probably it was when Senate bill came in, then it became separate articles, so the selectmen could put something in there ahead of everybody else, and they didn't have to go through the CIP, they didn't even have to put it on a warrant, they'd come here. And if we approved it, and they approved the operating budget of the town, that part was in it, you know? That probably had a change to it.
I had the definition of that one time. I have to go back and research it. I don't remember what it was. Anything else on CIP? We'll move on to Diane. And the school board, I did attend the meeting last night, and I found that pretty interesting. I almost felt like there was a gun being put to my head. I think I might have expressed that to you last night.
I think you did.
Yeah.
Yes, just to lead off with our area meeting that we had last time, we had a public hearing inviting members of the public to come to hear where we are with the area agreement with Dunbarton and New Boston right now. As most of you know, that is up in 2014. We had 11 people come, 4 of whom were from Goffstown. The remainder were from either Dunbarton or New Boston. I think the nuts and bolts of it is we are in the middle of negotiations. Dunbarton is also in negotiations with Bow. From a budget committee perspective, from a numbers perspective, if Dunbarton withdraws from the district, we're looking at about $1.5 million increase for our operating expenses for Goffstown. There is a proposal on the table now, and like I said, the negotiations are still ongoing. The proposal that is on the table right now could increase us by about $250,000 if they stay. So that's where we're at with the area agreement. Any questions on that?
Go ahead, Ruthie.
Diane, how does that work? Is that just the money that the school district gets from Dunbarton? Or
Right.
is that taking into effect that what it would cost Goffstown with less students, with not having?
The whole,
It's
yes,
the whole
it's
thing.
the loss of revenue from tuition, but it's also recognizing that we are going to continue to have operating expenses. We're not looking at enough, we wouldn't lose enough students to be able to close a building. We'd still have heat costs, we'd still have maintenance costs, we'd still have the same number of staff. It's just, it's not a big enough population to reduce our expenses, but we are losing revenue.
I think you were talking 190 students from Dunbarton, 8 from grades 7 through 12. Is that accurate?
Let me get those numbers, because I think that's high. I want to say that's, you're thinking New Boston. New Boston sends
was
more.
400, almost 400, 390.
So, if you give me a second, I can do that. You want me to continue while I'm
Yeah,
bringing
go
this
ahead,
up?
go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
okay. As far as our budget goes, we are scheduled to have the superintendent and the principals present their budgets to the school board on October 15th and October 17th at the Media Center, 7 o'clock. The following week, then, we would be doing our own workshops on what we're looking at. Bottom line for you guys is we are looking to have a budget approved by November 5th, presented to, for you, to deliver to you November 7th. Sorry, still trying to see if I can get
I didn't bring my presentation.
You guys may have already read in the paper that the district did return just shy of $1 million in the unreserved funds to the taxpayers. That was a pretty even split between revenues and expenses. The other thing I have as far as this budget year is at our meeting last Monday, the board did approve moving forward with a consultant for the Mountain View Middle School study. The cost of that is going to be $35,581. They went with a company called West Ed out of California, and they are going to be pulling the funds from that from a staffing line. And the reason that they're able to do that is our staffing line is got about $200,000 in savings on that. with different changes in plans and new hires. I think that's all I have, with the exception of confirming those numbers for you.
So that was
Did you have a question?
7th, which is a Wednesday. November 7th, you said, right? November 7th. And we'll have a meeting, will be not until the 20th of that month.
As far as your numbers, I've got them in my head broken down. At MVMS, Dunbarton has 60 students. GHS, they have 133. You're obviously right with your numbers.
So it's 190 approximately.
Thank you.
The observation I had is last year, the SAU said that each student from Dunbarton pays 11,300 tuition to Goffstown.
Mhm.
And you said there was a $1.2 million shortfall. That would imply 100 students.
I've got 1.5
Okay.
on my numbers.
But I mean, 11,300 per student, the SAU number from last year times 190 would be quite a bit higher than what you're saying.
All right, I'm going on what I've been given.
Okay.
Okay, and those are the numbers based on what the area committee has gotten from our business administrator.
So I think, Ivan, what you're asking for, what's the current tuition rates?
Well, we were told at our Saturday SAU step room meeting that the tuition was 11,300.
That was last year?
Yep. And that's about right, that's that number.
We'll just get the number. We'll find out what the current number is.
190 times that is not 1.2 million.
She said 1.5 billion.
1.5 is not even-
1.5.
It's 2.14.
Okay, understand too that we do, when we have tuition, if you have a sped student from a sending district, we're collecting revenues off of that for the expenses it washes. It's not gonna be a straight number.
Okay.
It's not gonna be as easy as that.
I can understand that. I think we can come up with, if you want to come up with an average, Ivan, I'm sure we can do that.
I'm just reporting what was said last year.
Yeah, and you're not off on that, but like, I mean, honestly, I'm not on the area committee, so I'm not sitting in these negotiations. These are not what I'm entrenched in, but these are the figures coming off the PowerPoint, which were presented in absolute good faith as being the honest and straightforward
Yeah,
answers.
I'm
but,
sure.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. John, do you have something?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Diane, with 190 students, if, from what I'm hearing, Dunbarton is really looking to go to Bow. That's what I'm hearing at the state level. And with that many students gone, there would be no reduction in teachers?
No,
Really? With 190 kids, I mean,
I'm not gonna
that's,
say not one is gonna go, John, no, I can't say that, but you're looking at 60 in one school, 133 in another.
Well-
You divide that through with the different classes, you're still gonna be offering electives. It's not going to totally, they're spread out over several grades. You've got 4 grades in the high school, 2 in Mountain View. So even if you take 30 away from each grade, you're not going to lose an entire teacher. You're still going to be offering Spanish 1, you're still going to be offering your algebra, you're still going to be offering different, it's not going to make the difference you think it's going to make. It's not going to make up for the loss of the tuition.
well, are they gonna look at if we need to, with that loss of revenue, do we need to teach every particular class? Can we say, you know what, we got 2 kids in Spanish, we don't need it?
We'd not be running a class with 2 kids, we're running classes with 24, 30. We're not running a
I
class
guess-
with 2.
I guess I'll just have to look at, I just don't understand how we can lose 60 kids out of Mountain View and not reduce at least 1 teacher out of there, but, and then I was just curious, the other question is the overcrowding. I know Bartlett, I believe, is very overcrowded.
Both schools are, but Bartlett is very tight, if you had to choose one.
Yes. Is there any way that, or is the school, because of this threat, or whatever you want to call it, of Dunbarton leaving, are looking at reorganizing classes and taking a segment of Mountain View Middle School and throwing them over in the high school, and then, bringing some other kids up that can handle those.
That hasn't been discussed
It hasn't.
at the board level.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Perhaps the salvation, John, will be that, for the taxpayers, is that, as we just saw, you mentioned, there's 900 some odd, 100,000 coming back, almost $1 million
Yeah, it's
from the
back.
reserve. And that's off a default budget, that the school budget being inflated as it is, even with, as a default number, might make up for the loss in revenue that we're gonna get from Dunbarton, and perhaps the taxpayers will be spared. And that's the hope.
I got, can I just, one little thing I'd like to say. When we're saying inflated, part of that was they got more revenues than anticipated too. It wasn't all $900,000 in unspended dollars. It was some unanticipated revenues, wasn't it, Diane?
It was.
Yeah.
It was, and it was a good mix, and when you look at it, it was 1% of the budget. Red did a really good job. We did a good job of getting the budget where it needed to be, if I say so myself.
But that's fine. I don't want to think it was $900,000 excess.
Yeah, I mean, I have a breakdown,
This
if
is
I
not
may.
a finger point at the school district. This is a finger point at the way the default budget is calculated in the first place, okay? Keep in mind that the state RSA outlines that the default budget is calculated based on the previous year's appropriation. And there's an argument with many people as to whether that number, that starting number, should be the actuals or the appropriated amount by the voters. And as we've seen year after year after year, with all the return, that if you $35 million budget and you spend 32, when they calculate the default the following year, they're not starting with 32, they're starting with 35. And this is artificially inflating these budgets, and that's why, in my opinion, why we keep getting these returns. Default budgets are passing, not the requested operating budgets, and yet they're not spending it all. So to me, and this is, like I said, it's not a finger pointing at the school. It's a finger pointed at the way the law is written, or it has to be clarified that when you calculate a default budget, you start with the previous year's actuals, not the appropriated amount.
Diane, go ahead.
Yeah, if I can also point out that when we are preparing the budget, this isn't just a function of the default budget calculation. When we're preparing the budget, this is the best effort. I'm looking at savings in electricity and natural gas. You're trying to estimate 18 months out what it's going to be, and you need to be smart about it. You're trying to be accurate, but you don't want to have a budget shortfall. We have a good saving in the retirement reserve. What that stemmed from is an expectation on the state level that there was going to be a lower contribution from the state. That did not come to pass. You have to plan for these things. So you've got differences there. You've also got increased revenue with tuition. A lot of that came from SPED, which is your special education programs. We've done a lot of work trying to move the programs into our buildings rather than tuitioning students out of district for that. We've seen some good savings in revenue there, so it's a combination.
Understood. Anything else, Diane?
That's all I got, I think.
Okay. Lee, anything over Glen Lake?
I do not. I'm going to try to meet up with her this week if I can.
Same thing with SAU?
Correct.
Okay, Bartlett, I took the advice and did not go. I talked to the principal, I said, didn't go this summer, because I think when you, Lisa, had said I needed to go, and sometimes in October, I was going to go over there during school hours and walk around and visit. So, we'll see what it's like. Lisa, Maple Ave, anything, or Joe?
Yeah, I met with Suzanne Pishka. We talked a little bit. When I met with her, she was working on her budget for 2013-14, and it was due to the superintendent on the 12th of September. And then she is scheduled to meet with the superintendent on October 1st, and I guess at that time they meet with the maintenance person, the tech person, and Ray is there as well, and they kind of go over the budget, and then they are gonna present then Stacy will present that to the board on October 15th and 17th. But what she did say is, not surprising, that what she anticipates will be an issue in her budget is a lot of plant repairs. Maintenance, she said in the newer section of the building, the frames in the window are all wood, and the majority of them are rotting, so those are gonna need to be replaced. Some exterior doors, they've been kind of they had problems with the locks, they repaired the locks, but they need new doors, they need a new door in the portable. So those types of things, and part of the roof was repaired, but they still need another section that needs to be repaired, so.
Is that a temporary repair, or was that a permanent repair they did in the roof?
Well, she said that part of it had been repaired. I think she said 2/3 of it had been repaired. Joe was there as well.
Yeah.
And they still had the other third to go. I know some of that money was in CIP, but we didn't really get into the specifics of that. But that was something big on the horizon.
Two oldest sections of the roof were done. It was, I think, permanent. I think it was a full
So was
repair of the roof. So with money that was surplus from other
Right.
savings and other
Yes.
parts of the budget.
Right.
That was part of the bond issue at one time last year, wasn't it? The roof repair at,
It was.
It was going to be part of the whole renovation, but
anything else?
That's it.
John or Brian?
I don't have anything.
Nothing, John?
No, I have nothing further.
Ivan?
No.
Dick, how's things over at the Village Water District?
I think they're in pretty good shape. The budget's in good shape. We did the Elm Street project. I'm not sure just what the final figure was, but I'd say approximately 35,000 less than what we were anticipating.
So there's money to repave my driveway then?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Why you didn't get your driveway repaved?
No.
You didn't talk to the right person.
There you go.
Am I talking to him now?
One of the things, though, that could change our budget, and we're working on it now, and I don't know what the answer is yet, but I know that the town, or Carl, is planning, or talking about the traffic circle and by the Gulf Station over there, it's being torn down now, and doing Prospect Street. I don't know if that's gonna happen, but if it does, we got water mains underneath the road there that should probably be changed at the time they do that, or we'll end up digging the roads up, And so that will affect our budget tremendously if that project should go ahead. And it might not, because we have approximately $160,000 each year in our budget for new water mains, and we do it a year. And we haven't decided which mains we're gonna do this coming year because of that project. And I don't know where that stands right now, but I'm sure we'll find out before too long. That could change things, but I don't think it will. I see our budget probably going down a little this year if we don't do that project there. We'll be doing some other street that's different, and not this, mains won't be the same size and what have you. But it's kinda waiting to see what happens.
Carlos, I wanted to ask a question. I was watching and Dick, I think both of you have this issue. The dam issue, where they're surveying the dams. Now, is there a potential that we'd have to redo those dams, or is that what this study is for?
That's exactly right. Yeah, to find out the extent of repairs that are needed. Maybe minimal, may not be. The water
Yep.
precinct is looking at the one at the upper end as well. But as far as the lower one that's town-owned dam, yeah, we won't know. The study's just begun. The contract was awarded just last month.
So that doesn't include the Greg's Falls and the,
This is just the Uncanonic.
just town-owned ones?
Yes.
Uncanonic, the one up on Uncanonic,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, we own one end of it, and the town owns the other end of it. our end of it's all right, the one at the base of the mountain, but our reservoirs, which have 2 dams, we have a consultant firm now doing a study on them dams and what might take place and what we might have to do. Have no idea. I know they just started it, so there'll be a report sometime around the middle of December on.
This is mandated by the state, right?
Right, yeah. Yeah, there's some deficiencies when they did the state inspection. And it's interesting, a lot of people don't realize that there's 2 outflows from Mountain Base Pond, one through the Uncanunic Dam, one through the Water Precinct Dam. It's a little unusual.
Yeah, the one we have is like a cofferdam.
Yeah.
And it's a big berm, you know.
Yeah, it's not much of a structure.
And we had to do work on that 2 years ago, I believe it was. Not much, but we had to do some work on it. So,
John, I'm sorry, go ahead, you had a question?
Yeah, it was not a question, just a statement about, I don't know if it was discussed in the meeting that I was not attendant to, but it was on the Grassmere Water Precinct. Little mix-up of the paper, that's been resolved, from
Yes.
what I understand, that the
Right.
state approved it and everything's fine. So I didn't know if that was said.
Anything else? I had a question now. When the agreement is finally agreed upon, and there's a dollar value attached to that, will that come for the budget committee for recommendation?
What it means is start
Right.
drafting. It means we don't have an agreement.
won't they have to notify you ahead of time if they're gonna withdraw give you notice?
Yeah.
Yes.
There's some kind of.
And how long is that notice?
Well, they've given us notice that they are exploring other opportunities, which we knew. We knew they were.
But the agreement expires on June 30th, 14, so that dollar impact that you don't even realize now. I mean, I don't think we really got an answer last night, and I don't think we went that deep with what happens if somebody says no. What's the dollar impact then? Because now New Boston's more or less out, and Dunbarton's out, and Goffstown stands alone. Is that what happens?
New Boston is not currently, to my understanding, they are not under negotiations with any other district. And I'm not sure if that was really driven home necessarily, because the governing body for that decision is it's up to the Dunbarton Board whether or not they would have to go to the Dunbarton Board, because then we would end up tuitioning them, setting a different tuition that's exclusive in area agreement. And I wasn't sure if that
If they
ever
understood
got-
that?
Yeah, if that hit home.
I understood what you said, but I
Yeah.
don't, maybe they didn't.
Yeah, I'm not, sometimes you just don't know, I don't know. But no, definitely, it would be up to their board as a governing body on that.
I'm sorry, Collis, go ahead.
Yeah, I
Then
had a
John.
question, Diane. The contract for the study for Mountain View Middle School, was it 35,000+, did you say?
Was it 35,581?
And it was awarded to a firm from California?
Yeah, West End.
What portion of the budget was for travel and expenses? Do you know?
I don't know.
Could we find out? I mean, that'd be interesting to know. It
Well,
seemed to me it would be a significant chunk of that,
Lodging and,
lodging and travel and
Yeah.
airfares, and for every
That's
dollar
assume-
we spend on expenses, one less dollar we spend on the study.
It's assuming that the person is actually coming from
Well, I
California.
know,
that-
and-
that
and I don't know
it's-
that, so
It's
it's
housed,
just-
yeah, no, and I don't
just a
know.
question.
I don't know. I don't know that budget, hands down.
John, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yep, thank you. Diane, I was just curious, will it be this March that the agreement will be on the ballot, or will it be 13?
No, it'll be this March.
Okay. so
That's-
That
that's
is
when they-
13.
Yeah, it is 13th.
Oh, yeah, I guess it is. Whoops,
Yeah,
sorry.
right. So yes on both.
Where's the time gone?
Any other questions of the departments or districts? Any new business? Anybody got any questions? I think we discussed how we want to proceed with the budget. Is when the selectmen will present it to us, we'll get to take a look at it, schedule the meetings for department heads to come in. Same thing with the school, we'll get their budget, do the same thing there. Ivan, go ahead.
This is new business.
Okay.
Aren't we missing a member?
Yes, we have posted.
Okay, so we need
Have
to,
posted, yes.
we need to
When-
appoint
Yes,
a new member.
right. And that has to be posted. Sue DeRusso did point, didn't you get my email where she mentioned that she posted the position for open? So as soon as we get some volunteers, or if you know somebody that would be interested, Ivan, have them go up, fill up the proper paperwork, and then they'll come before the board at the next meeting.
Just a real quick question, Diane, you mentioned something about getting the school budget to us by November, was it 5 or 7 ballpark?
Our goal is to have it approved by the 5th, which would be ready for delivery to you on the 7th.
Okay, Collis, do you have a ballpark on the town? You're usually earlier than the school. Do they have anything planned at all?
Certainly earlier than that, I don't know the exact.
Okay.
There is a schedule
There
there.
is a schedule, I don't have it with.
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
okay.
Right.
No, I saw the schedule too.
Can't read this thing so bad.
You say November 7th?
November 7th.
Okay, so
Right
on
here.
10-1, the
Right here.
administration budget presentation to the selectmen and budget, okay.
You're looking at November 5 according to the
Correct.
schedule, but the Board of Selectmen is usually
You're
much
correct.
earlier than that.
Okay, the Board of Selectmen finalizes 2013 budget on 10/29,
Right.
And we'll
they-
get it the
So we
first
get
week.
it 11/5.
and
Same time as
11/5,
the school, more or less.
Yeah, that's unusual.
they're submitting it to the budget committee.
In my
on
4 years anyways, it's unusual. We usually get the towns at least a week or two before the schools. But you guys are earlier than usual.
We're trying.
Yeah, that's
We're
good.
trying.
Okay, I was just
You know,
curious.
I looking for me at the schedule, it's tight. I want to make sure that we take the time we need to take with it.
Yeah, I mean,
But
11/5
that's our preliminary
is pretty good.
goal. That's what we've got, we're shooting for.
It's about the same time, same time as last year.
And there is a meeting scheduled for next Tuesday. It's a joint meeting between the Board of Selectmen and the school board to talk about needs and how we're gonna split the tax dollar. You know, what makes the most sense for the community, so
And that's next Tuesday?
Tuesday
Yeah.
night,
Where?
That's,
Here?
What's the date? The
Where's it
2nd?
at?
next Tuesday.
I think it's over at JHS, isn't
Yeah, I
it?
think it is. I think it's in the media center, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, I think it is.
You guys have talked about doing that for a long time.
Yeah,
It's
we
nice-
have.
Nice to see the two
We
boards
really
getting
pushed on
together.
it this year.
Good.
So it'll be where at the LGC, said? Or where was it gonna be?
No,
I'm
Media
sorry.
Center.
Media center.
Media Center.
Yeah, JHS.
Next Tuesday at the Media Center. So,
What, 7 o'clock or?
I think they wanted to start early. didn't
Is
they?
it 6:30?
I think they were talking about
Okay.
an earlier start. It'll be on the calendar when it's down calendar when it's.
It's kind of cool to attend that.
yeah, that'd be an interesting meeting.
Yeah, it should be interesting.
Hopefully.
When do we
What
meet
about the
again
7th or
next?
6th?
Our next meeting is scheduled for
Look on my
10/16.
phone.
10/16? October 16th.
And again, we won't have anything to work on yet, because it'll be another 3 weeks after that.
Yeah.
So we're still gonna meet though?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
not that I don't love meeting, but.
Hey, we'd miss it
No,
if
but
you
I mean,
weren't
if we're
here.
not gonna, we're just gonna,
Hash things out, get ready to go.
okay. Sharpen our pencils.
There you go.
Especially appointing a new member.
What we did like tonight.
Hopefully, that's right, hopefully we'll have a new member to interview and
Yeah.
appoint.
Tuesday, the 16th, 7 PM.
Yes, sir.
Looking for a motion?
Yeah, I'm looking for a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded by Lee Sperry.
I wore glasses to the meetings.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none? This meeting is adjourned.
Stay.